What's up, everybody? We're back. I actually have another special guest who was here during our entire episode of our first podcast, and that is Krystal Markovich.
Hello.
What's up, Krystal? Thanks for joining us today. So yeah, I kind of just want to open the floor to you. I know you were at the council meeting on Monday, and you were there and you spoke.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit of what was going on and just how you feel about the entire situation.
Sure. So obviously by my last name, you know that my husband's a council member. So sometimes it's hard for me to be able to express my opinions as a Cudahy resident just because of my last name. And normally I try to hold those feelings inside, but after seeing just the amount of people responding to our city becoming a sanctuary city, or just reaffirming its sanctuary status, I felt compelled and passionate enough to just share my thoughts, because I felt that that conversation was kind of going in a direction that was not really productive for our city and for the residents as well. So.
Okay. Now, when you spoke on the podium, what was the people can see the video, but what were you trying to get at?
Really, I was trying to show that being a sanctuary city actually has made our city safer. I can understand, people saying that it is illegal and that we're being lawless. I can see their point of view. I just don't agree with it. I think that in America right now, our immigration, just all of the laws around immigration are imperfect. And because of that, as a city, we had to respond on a local level. And I completely support the council's decision. I don't always agree with my husband on some of the things that they vote on, but in this very particular instance, I absolutely agree. I plan on raising a family here, and just hearing, me and you are friends, and I've met a lot of other friends who grew up in the city. I know how dangerous it used to be with drugs and guns and gangs, and I don't want my kids to grow up in that type of city. I want them to grow up with tolerance and love for their neighbor and, just generally safe.
When it comes to the issue of sanctuary cities, we know, of course, your husband voted in favor of them, and so did the other council members and the mayor. Tell me, I understand why, but tell me in your own words why, it makes you angry as a resident of Cudahy that Jack decided to abstain his vote.
I think for me, I believe that if you become a politician, and it was something that I felt very strongly about when my husband became a council member, is that you become the mouthpiece for those who can't speak. And I think having a yes or no vote, either voting for or for voting against, it really gives you the opportunity to express the views, even if it's in opposition, of the views of the people that you represent. And so for me, when Councilmember Guerrero abstained from having that vote, I felt that if he really truly disagreed with sanctuary cities, I think he could have been a greater voice for those who oppose it, and maybe even had a little bit more rationality, because he's obviously an educated man, and I think he could have had a way, more effective way to communicate his opposition than some of the people who are obviously showing up at the meetings now, that are saying some, claim not to be racist, which I can understand, but are saying very racist and ignorant things about the Latino community. So when I hear a council member that is not voting no or not voting yes, I feel that it is that they are just robbing the people of the duty that they swore when they entered on council.
So very much like Trump and like the alt-right movement, Steve Bannon, or things like that. He doesn't disavow these people who are coming here, these Trump supporters, and they're doing their Nazi salute. They're using this rhetoric that's really offensive to the residents here in Cudahy. So what do you have to say to a councilman who doesn't stand up against things like that?
I mean, honestly, the first word that comes to my mind is coward. I just feel that, I grew up in a household, even before my mom became a single parent, she acted like a single parent because my dad was working night shifts, and I'm first generation, and my dad had to do that in order to support our family. And so for me to have someone have the opportunity to say that something is wrong and doesn't take it is just as guilty as the person doing something wrong. And that may be something that is my personal belief, but I truly feel that for someone who is representing tens of thousands of people in a city, you have an obligation to really say that that's not right. And during that meeting, it got really crazy because there was some comments made that they were white supremacists, and a lot of people took offense to that. And I think that the more correct term would be their racist comments. They may not be racist, they may not be white supremacists, but they talk, and their rhetoric is so similar. Saying that you don't speak Mexican versus saying that you don't speak Spanish. And even then, we know that in South America, they don't just speak Spanish. In Spain, they speak a different type of Spanish. There's Portuguese. There's all kinds of different languages out there. So when you say, I don't speak Mexican, you may say that that's not a racist comment, but that is a very racist comment to me.
Yeah. So with all this racial tension, being used to divide the city, I feel like it's a way of kind of getting in a position to where kind of like what Donald Trump did with his campaign. He saw an opening where people feel a certain way, and then he kind of validates the way these people feel,
right?
And I feel like Jack is doing this, but what is it that these people don't see about the fact that he chose not to vote for this issue of sanctuary cities? How can we get across to these people that kind of praise him for being against sanctuary cities when he really hasn't even taken a stance?
Well, I think that honestly, one of the really great ways, and one of the things I'm actually really lucky that we live in the state of California, because our state is a little bit more progressive, a little bit more open-minded than others. So I think we have that going for us, is that, most people in California and in LA County are very welcoming, very accepting to LGBT community, as well as to the undocumented, as LA County is a sanctuary city. And so I think that fortunately our society recognizes it, and now it's our turn as residents of the city to inform each other of what's real and what isn't real. And so unfortunately we live in a society now where the highest office in our country is coming out with a new definition, of alternative facts. There are no alternative facts. There's facts, and then there's fiction. And so when you are confusing the message that there is another truth that is the actual truth, I think that's why a lot of people are confused about what's happening. So in Cudahy, when you have other people coming in and completely lying, saying they're in favor for something and not saying that they're not in favor of something, but never really, coming out and dancing and not giving a straight answer, that confuses people. So I think we as residents and, as community activists and, especially even me being, married to a council member, I probably see a little bit more than the average person. So I feel a duty to tell my neighbor, to inform people, to go out there and help my city and help the residents just become aware and make their own opinion. They could agree with me or not agree with me, but at the end of the day, they have to know what's going on for them to form that opinion.
Okay. I'm a huge fan of Trevor Noah, and I kind of want to play the devil's advocate the way that he does on his show.
Sure.
So what do you say to people that say having a sanctuary city invites more crime, invites more illegals?
I would say that it is statistically proven, especially in our city, that being a sanctuary city, it actually makes it safer. But even if it didn't, I would say that being human incites crime. I don't think that hate is a race or a gender, or, it doesn't reside in certain types of people. It resides in people. I think that there are a lot of criminals who are American, and there are a lot of criminals who are of different races, different ethnicities, different genders, and violence doesn't stem from a community or a culture. It stems from the person. So I think the bigger injustice that's happening isn't, legal status and our imperfect, system for legalizing citizens. I think it comes from our justice system and how, imperfect that system is, and how we can improve it to make our people safer.
So, seeing as how you went up there and a lot of your comments were directed at Jack, tell me, what are some other things that you've seen him do or not do that have shown you that he is not fit to be a leader in the Cudahy community?
So some of the things I just to start off, so that the listeners are also aware, I have been going to these council meetings faithfully since 2013. So going on 4 years. Even before I was a resident of Cudahy, I took an interest in the city, in my future home, obviously. And so going to these meetings year after year after year, when I went up there and decided to talk about Jack Guerrero, it had been 2 years of me disagreeing with his standpoints, and finally being able to have the avenue to disagree with him. So one of the things that he abstained on and actually voted no against was equal rights for women. So one of the city actually just did something more of just like in support of the current law that is equal pay for. And so when they were doing this thing for equal pay for women, he voted no because he thought that it would open up the city to legal liability. And even though the city attorney had told him that it wouldn't, because it's, merely just in support of, it's not changing the law in Cudahy or anything like that, he still refused to because of legal liability. But at the end of the day, he felt that the terms were harsher than needed to be than that was current California state law. But I just feel that the law needs to be harsher because women are still being paid unfairly. Mm-hmm. So that was one really big thing that stuck out to me. And then also, during the month of October, there was Pregnancy Loss Awareness Month, mm-hmm. and it was brought up to the city council in recognition. And I personally have suffered through that loss. And I just feel like he tried to politicize that recognition, instead of helping the people in the community, who are very quiet about this very hard thing to go through, like pregnancy loss. He tried to add abortion to it. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that's pure politics. I think, there are some things you can be anti-abortion, I can totally see that, but I think at the end of the day, it's a woman's right to choose. Absolutely. And that issue had nothing to do with grieving parents who lost a child. And so Jack Guerrero bringing stuff up like that obviously shows will trigger an emotional response, I think, and not just me, but a lot of residents who don't understand why he's voting that way.
All right, so now that we know how you feel about Jack Guerrero, let's talk about the other person who's running for re-election, and that is Chris Garcia. What are some qualities that you see in him that you like, don't like, and mm-hmm. will you be supporting him for re-election?
I mean, absolutely, I'm 100% in support of Chris Garcia. My husband has been working with him for several years, and I've known him personally for several years as well, and on a council member basis. And just the difference that you can see in the council under his leadership. The first year he took mayorship, our council meetings used to go from 6 p.m. until 3:30 in the morning. And that was really hard for people to stick it out and listen to city business because of, how just unorganized our meetings were. And, under his leadership, he was really able to get the most important issues and focus and really just get one thing done after the other. Lugo Park, Clara Street Park, and really just set up, I think, the city to finally get past the corruption. he really opened the door and shut it behind him, saying, we are no longer this corrupt city. We are now going to focus on the future. And he's done that ever since. And I think that, 4 more years for him would definitely mean more progression for our city.
And let me play devil's advocate once again. And
Sure.
what do you say to the people that say the council members are corrupt? They have violated this act, that act, Brown Act, this law, that law. What do you say to those people?
I just think that, like in any democracy, that there's a lot of misinformation that's being put out there. And so I think that the word corruption is one of those words that is a shock and awe word, that when you say corruption, then you know that something is going wrong. So you could disagree with something or something that they're doing. That doesn't necessarily make them corrupt. So I think there's just a really, big open window for those alternative facts. Corruption does not mean, corruption does not mean that you disagree with them. Corruption means that they're breaking the law, and they're definitely not breaking the law. I just think that a lot of people, not even a lot of people, but there's certain people who disagree with them, and that's okay. I just think that those big words like corruption and lawlessness, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what that means and what's actually happening.
Your husband spoke briefly on Martin Fuentes, who's also running for council. What are your views on him? What are some good things you see about him? And are you looking forward to his campaign?
Absolutely. I'm also in support of Martin. It's so funny because during the national election, me and Christian disagreed on our candidates. I was, pro Hillary and he was pro Bernie, so we were kind of a split household for a little while. But I think when it comes to a local election, we definitely see eye to eye. And Martin's, been a commissioner and has taken the time to talk to residents, which is really, really important. And, not even just the residents who are in support of him, but the residents who disagree with him. If somebody says, I don't agree with your stance on this, he takes the time to actually listen to what they're saying. And at the end of the day, he does what's right for Cudahy. And that's, I think, the most important part about being a council member. It's not about inflicting your agenda or your views on people. It's about what's doing what's going to help, Cudahy prosper. And I think that gets mixed in the campaign jargon and, when you're running for council members nowadays, or even the presidency, it seems like it's always, who's going to get no homework on Fridays and who's going to get, ice cream at lunch every day. But it's not about those false open promises. It's about listening, evaluating, and making decisions.
It's all in the policy.
Exactly.
Let's jump back to a Monday's meeting and just what's been happening. This has been happening for over a year now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about people who are not from Cudahy coming down to our meetings, being disruptive, being offensive? What's your stance there?
I mean, I definitely feel almost like they're trying to make a mockery of the people of Cudahy because, they're trying to be our saviors, but I just feel like they don't realize we don't need saving. And so I just feel like there are a lot of people who are not from Southeast LA who are coming and really manipulating our residents, to cheer for them. But, it might be because they don't agree with something, but it's not because, that they support their topic of, ending, some of the signs that said, end, natural citizenship or
the
birthright citizenship, or, no more anchor babies. And just, that kind of rhetoric is just not what they're in support of. They might be disagreeing about, something else on the agenda, but they manipulate, just residents and other people to cheer for them, and it makes them look like there's a lot more of them than there actually are.
Right.
And so I just feel like they're really taking advantage of a community who works. Not everybody can come to council meetings, and to be honest, I was there, giving my 2 cents. And if you do watch the video, I get booed and mocked. And, I don't even want to I really don't even want to be in that environment, but I just feel so strongly about what's happening that I have never been the type of person to let, injustices continue. And so I felt compelled to talk. And so it's really hard to just see them come in and completely disrupt the meeting where it doesn't even happen. That's a whole day's work just completely derailed. It's almost like if you went into work and somebody turned off all of the electricity and said, I want you to work. It's really hard to do your job when you're blinded with two hands tied behind your back. And I feel like that's what these people are doing. They're not helping. They're disadvantaging our community by not allowing our policymakers to make policy. All for protesting. I was 100% support on the March in Washington. I was 100% support of, people protesting and showing their views. However, those people do not disrespect, degrade, belittle, or attack. I think that's really the biggest difference when it comes to protesting.
Right. And a lot of those protests that you said you're in favor for don't interrupt
right.
policymakers. They're done outside.
Right.
They're done they're organized.
Right.
They don't just come into a city council meeting and start shouting their
right.
beliefs
right.
and then
or following you home, fear tactics. It's just not
right.
okay.
And yeah, we definitely can't have that. That being said, they're so good at organizing. Like I was talking to Christian about
right.
where are the people who voted Christian and Chris Garcia? What can we do? How do we get these people compelled enough to come out?
Well, what we're currently doing right now is calling them one house at a time. And I think, Bernie Sanders had it right. It's not about spending the most amount of money. It's not about billboards. It's not about mailers. It's about making a genuine connection with someone enough to get them to be passionate about what's happening. And to be honest, there are a lot of people who are passionate. And, I've met high school students who are just so upset at the direction that these people are taking their city. For once, Cudahy is on the news again, and it's because these people are coming in and interrupting a meeting. It's not about the new park that they just got, that these kids just got. It's not about the cleanup day that the city council, my husband and Chris Garcia and Councilmember Hernandez and, worked with the high school students to do. It's not about those positive things. It's reverting back to the negative press that we've just worked so hard to get out of with the different publicity things that we've done. So for me, it's just that's how we get people out, is we make that genuine connection. We are the people who need to reach out, talk to your neighbor, talk to your friends, talk to the person, your coworker, whoever it is. Do things crazy like me and go on a podcast and try to encourage people to come out, because that's really how you do it. Martin Luther King, I'm sure, started by himself and 3 other people, and look at the difference that he's made. So it's really reaching out to everyone who feels the way we do.
Absolutely, and that's definitely the theme of this podcast. I'd like to thank you again for coming on, Krystal Markovich. Also,
Thank
think
you.
we're gonna wrap it up right there. But it's been awesome talking to you guys. I'm gonna have you guys on again, and I'm gonna do my best to make sure that I talk to enough people and to all kinds of people, even people with opposite views. If they want to come on this show and on this podcast and speak their mind, they're definitely allowed to. But be respectful, come with positive, solutions or something, because just going out there and saying that, illegals have to go, that's definitely not the way to do it. So, yeah.
And on behalf of the Markovich family, we want to thank you and Local Lookout for just, giving this platform for people to be able to talk about what's on their heart, what's on their minds, and what's going on in their city.
Oh, awesome. Thank you guys
Thank you.
much once again. With that, We are out of here. Thanks to anybody who came and to my link, to my website, to my Facebook, and chose to listen to this. This was very constructive. It was really cool to have these two guys on today. Yeah, if anybody wants to be on this podcast, shoot me a message, shoot me a DM. Let me know what you want to talk about. We'll set it up. I'm going to try to get Chris Garcia in here one of these days, hopefully soon, so he can talk about his re-election. But yes, thank you guys for tuning in to this second segment, surprise segment with Krystal Markovich, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.